Welcome back, Frontier family. Hope you are ready to learn more and earn more. In this episode, we have Stephen Keighery, an Australian entrepreneur and property investor who fell in love with New Orleans and has made it his home for the past 6 years. As founder of Home Buyer Louisiana, he now revitalizes distressed homes, invests in local startups through the NOLA Angel Network, and proudly supports his Louisiana community. So, let's get into it. Stephen, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be on.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll get right into it. I think the exciting part of really what I want to dig into today is how you blended like your massive marketing background from Australia into the wholesaling and how they really overlap, right? And so I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but with that first venture, right? You're out of college, like, hey, I want to start a business. What was that first business venture like, and how did it kind of get you to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was really into business, the Robert Kiyosaki fan. So, I started a marketing business because that was my background. I'd studied marketing and sales. It sort of merged with some other people, and we developed a, online platform connecting homeowners with contractors, or tradespeople as we call them. So, we did really heavy marketing to sign up contractors to our website who paid us for advertising, and heavy marketing to consumers so they would find our website and use those contractors, who were basically our advertisers. So, yeah, man, we grew to 300 staff. We IPO'd on the Australian Stock Exchange, had a value of $315 million. So it was awesome and hard and fun and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Just because it's there, man. What brought you away from Australia? Why America? What about New Orleans kept you here?
So, I mean, I just love America. So we've been in 28 states. We've done a lot of journeys around America. Just we love the culture. And New Orleans is our favorite city. We love the Saints. We love the food. So we came here for a holiday. I left my business operationally and I wanted to take a year off. So part of that year was coming here and spending 6 months just living. So I did not intend to move. You intended to come here for 6 months, but we got about 2 months into that. And my wife was like, we're not leaving. So we ended up, that was, 6-7 years ago when we had that first holiday.
No, I love that. It's just cool to see kind of that transition and to your point, like finding something you love. But sorry, going back, I know there's a bit of a curveball there. Starting off in that first business, right? It's really it's a two-sided marketplace, right? You're selling to the homeowner as well as the contractor. You're kind of, you're a middleman there. Talk to us about kind of those early days and how you were going about connecting those businesses. Was it a lot of phone calls? Was it a lot of handshake networking events? How did you grow the business from the ground up?
Yeah, very heavy phone calls, very heavy sales. And so we would cold call. We had a team of people who put people on a free 30-day trial. I grew that to there was 12 people in that team making hundreds of calls a day each, putting people on a free trial. Would call them in the middle of the trial to just help them onboard them, and then we'll call them at the end of the 30-day trial and sell them. We had about a 40% conversion rate. So it was just numbers of how many trials we put on, how many people we sell. That was on the contractor side. All the homeowners, that was heavy internet marketing. So if you're searching for a plumber, builder, architect in areas, then that's how they would generally find us. So we weren't calling consumers, we were doing online marketing. But we absolutely were calling the contractors. Because when we first started calling them, we told them about getting online, and they were like, Google, what is that? They were the internet, that's a trend now. And we had to really convince them, about the power of the internet because, it was in 2006. So it was just earlier days for contractors.
And so was a lot of it just building a web presence, or was some of that web involving email marketing strategies too? You're kind of leading through a funnel?
Yeah. So the core was very web, our search engine optimization, search engine marketing, but we absolutely would find a consumer, a homeowner who they would find something. They might find a plumber through our site, but then when they came through, we connected with that plumber, but we did get their email address and they did become a newsletter subscriber, and we would send them home tips and all this sort of stuff because that same person needed a plumber. I know they're going to need an electrician later. They might want to do a rebuild one day, and so that one person, we wanted to come back again and again and again to the site, and email was definitely a big part of that.
Absolutely. And again, I'm kind of foreshadowing a little bit here, a lot of the online strategy, especially in the service-based side, right? You're providing a service to somebody else. It's a lot about that authenticity, but also proving that you provide results, right? Proving you provide success. How did you go about, again, early days, starting from the ground up, how did you prove that authenticity? How did you prove that social proof to gain that trust with the buyers, with the contractors and the homeowners?
Yeah, authenticity is a really good word. So we were very conscious being like a web-based business, and we didn't shake the hands like you asked at first. Like even the contractors we spoke on the phone and the homeowners, they just came through our site. So we did try to show a lot of transparency. We would, in our emails, we would send photos of people and we would show our staff. We wanted to like be human. So that was really important. So they would like us. And then demonstrating results, on the contractor side, we developed dashboards so that they could see how many times they've appeared in result, how many people had seen them. Obviously it was hard to sometimes get credit for the work we were generating because they would say, "Hey, I found you on Google," to our contractors, and they found them on Google through us. But they started sometimes to give me say, "Hey, like those people saying they found you on Google, like they're finding through us." So we had to develop different ways to really show them where the leads were coming from, and we ended up developing much closer relationship where we would the consumer would talk to the contractors on our platform, and we would get the jobs. Whereas in the early days, I was calling, so a lot of our activity was happening off platform. But now it really happens on platform, so they can like really see the results and money they're generating as a contractor. And the homeowners, they know they're using us to find qualified contractors.
Absolutely. And kind of how are you tracking that word of mouth? Like, did you know if a contractor recommended you to another contractor or vice versa, a homeowner recommended you to a homeowner? How are you tracking if you're getting leads that way or directly through like the SEO, through the web-based platform or not?
I mean, it's hard to track exactly where the leads came from in terms of referrals, but we would track a lot. So, even when they come to our website, it's like, what do they search? They search our brand name, because when they're searching our brand name, they're coming to our website, but they're coming for us. So those are more the referral-based branding, word of mouth stuff. Or did they find us because they were searching for a plumber in Sydney? Because then that's not looking for us. They were looking for a plumber. And we inserted ourselves into, that journey to bring them to us. So, we would track a lot of stuff. It's not always perfect, but really important to track marketing, because if you can track it and you can know what's working, then you can invest more money into it. And as a result, when we first started doing Google advertising, we used to spend like $2,000 a month. And when we scaled that all the way to $1 million a month in Google advertising. So, the only way you can do that is by being really clear on and measuring and knowing what to spend on or not to spend on. So that's really, really important.
Absolutely. And again, to transition that now into wholesaling, right? Hey, we're going to start over. We're going to start a whole new business, a whole new life, a whole new venture. How did having that background get you started in wholesaling? And I guess maybe even to back up there, what is wholesaling to you and how did you best suit yourself to succeed in it?
Yeah, so wholesaling is essentially where you're finding deals. Wholesaling is marketing. It really is the marketing and sales and negotiating part of real estate investing, because a lot of real estate investors, to really get good deals, you got to go off market mostly, or you got to find distress. It can be on market, but you got to find distress, property or person. So wholesaling is really about finding those distressed opportunities, and negotiating a good price that works. And what we do though is, instead of buying the property, we'll get the contract to buy the property. And then we have a network of buyers. We've got about 3,500 buyers in Southeast Louisiana section area. So we will let them know about the deal we have, and we'll assign the right to buy that deal to them. So, we might have a contract, let's say for $100,000 to buy the house, and we might assign it to them for, let's say, $110,000. But what will then happen is they will purchase the property. The seller will get 100,000, they will pay 110, and we would get the assignment fee in the middle, and it can be smaller than that or bigger than that. It just depends how good a job you do at negotiating the deal. So it really is sales and marketing. So then how did my background help? Immensely. So, to just tell you, actually, when I first came here, to get to be able to live in America, I had to start a business, because I'm not a citizen, right? So I'm on a business investment visa. And I wanted to do property investing because I did a little bit in Australia. I had 6 rentals in Australia and I wanted to do some here. So I bought a deal from a wholesaler. Actually, my first, doing my business plan about this property investing company. And I didn't know what a wholesaler was. So I'm like, hey, they got the deals. I said, let me learn what they do. And my intention at first was to be a customer. I want to be a customer because they got the deals. And then I did a one-day course through my local RIA on wholesaling. And when they explained what it was, I'm just like, it was my skill set. When they were talking about running marketing, generating leads, sales process, I'm like, I lit up and went, that's a two-sided marketplace. That is my skill set. So I realized that was my in to get into property in America. So I just went really hard in wholesaling. I learned all the stuff from the gurus. I did all the guru courses, but I mixed a whole lot of stuff in there that they're not teaching that is my sales and marketing background to, build a brand for my business, to recognize it being a two-sided marketplace where you have one group of people who's your sellers, distressed homeowners, and the other group is the buyers, and they're distinct groups. You need both of them. You need to market to them differently. And my background was just like, gave me massive, one up to do that.
Absolutely. And definitely a bunch of like unique selling points there. But on the section you just talked about, right? You have the buyers and the sellers, and you're going to talk to them each individually. You're going to hit them with different tactics, right? Similar to how you approach the same thing with your two-sided business of the contractors and the homeowners. How are you approaching buyers versus approaching sellers in wholesale?
Yeah, I mean, they're very different needs. Sellers have a problem. Generally, they're distressed sellers. It could be a financial problem. It could be a house problems in like holes in a roof. So they got a problem. There's normally issues. So to approach them, you need to be really empathetic to the situation and understanding. So like my acquisition people, people might say they're sales, but they're not sales to me. They're service. They're listening, they're understanding, they're figuring out what the problem is so that we can get a solution. So, that's how you need to deal with those people. Just really help them fundamentally, and hopefully you can make a deal. But often we don't do deals, and we'll send them away. Say, hey, at least with a realtor, we'll actually send them away. We're not trying to high pressure sell them. That's how you sort of appealing to those sellers and solving problems. The buyers, they don't have that same problem. They're more commercial. They're more people that are looking for opportunities. They're investors. They're looking for rentals or flips. So, it's not so emotional. It is more business-like. So you need to just show that you're credible. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad wholesalers out there in the sense that a lot of wholesalers that don't really know numbers. So like buyers can be a little jaded because they get all these wholesalers who send them deals, but they're not really deals. So it's wasting those buyers' time. So what you need to do to the buyers is you need to show them you're credible. You need to show them that you know your numbers, that, so social proof is good. Seeing that you're doing actual deals really helps. They build trust with them, but also don't send them bad deals. I think the biggest mistake that new wholesalers make is they get a deal. It's not a deal, but it might be the lowest price the seller would accept. So they try to move it. And that just causes the biggest problem to everyone, because you're not helping the seller. If you're getting a contract at a price you can't move, you're not helping them, right? And then when you're selling out to your buyers, the buyers, you're trying to really help them, trying to help the seller by pushing this deal. But when it's not a deal, you're just burning the buyers. They're just, wholesaling when you're dealing with the buyers, it's not about selling, it's about telling, right? It should just be, here's a deal, here's the ARV, this is what's wrong, here's some photos. And to the right buyer, they should look at that and go, I want that deal. If you find you're having to convince them and push them, you haven't done a good job, getting the deal. So I think that's really important, that you understand the sellers so you can structure a deal, and then you really understand what a deal is to your buyers and put those opportunities in front of them.
And do you find that the buyers kind of work in a pool? To your point, a lot of it, if it's being social proof, if you, whether accidentally or not, if you burn a bad deal, right? Hey, that deal wasn't as good as you thought it was, or something, you didn't do the math, right? Does that affect you just for that one person? Or does that person, like I said, is it more of a pool? Hey, they kind of word of mouth, hey, so-and-so's not as good as we think they are.
Yeah, it's a small world, particularly if you're dealing in the sick. So I'm really Southeast Louisiana, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, around those areas. So it's a small pool, though, yes. You can get away with sending a bad deal or two, particularly if you're new, and particularly if they want to give you feedback, if you listen, you can listen to your buyer. I learned a lot from my buyers. They're very smart people. So I learned to invest through them. So listen to them. So, but you can get away with sending one or two bad deals if you listen and show that you're actually responding. But they do definitely talk. So and it's not that you even get blacklisted. I'll give you an example, something that I learned a really valuable lesson when I did a joint venture. So there was a wholesaler who was out of state, and he had a deal, and he didn't have buyers in Southeast Louisiana. So he reached out to me and said, hey, would you do a joint venture where you move the deal for me? And I do a lot of those. I like those sorts of deals. I'm like, yep. I must say 9 times out of 10 when I look at a deal, it's not a deal. And I'm like, I can't help you because it's not a deal, but I looked, I'm like, this is a deal. It's actually a deal. It was a good, competent wholesaler. We signed a joint venture. I sent it out to my buyers. I signed it. We closed it, right? And I went to the closing, and the buyer said to me, he's like, you know what, Steve? I saw this deal before you sent it to me. I just didn't really look at it until you sent it to me. And that was when my light bulb went off, because I realized that that guy might have got some list of emails and emailed this buyer. But because that buyer didn't know him, he just assumes it's a bad deal, and he's, oh, that's probably not a deal. Didn't spend his time. But when I sent him that deal, he looked at it because he thought it's probably going to be a deal. And that's what made me really cement that you need to have that brand, that credibility. So you need to prove that with your buyers so they look at your deals. Otherwise, you just wash in with all the other wholesalers that are sending bad deals out there.
I love that. So then for the seller side, right? How are you kind of getting the credibility with them? Obviously, the social proof there is a lot more through like what's on your website or what's on your socials. But how are you making sure that, hey, you're the best one to work with in this scenario, right? To your point, you're serving a need at that point. How do you go about and spreading that you're the fixer of that need, if I can think of a better way to say it?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple. I mean, definitely the website and the social is a big part of that. So we do, we have videos of closings, case studies on our websites and stuff. So the website is a lot of that credibility. And if we speak to someone on the phone, we generally will like send them to the website, so they're getting a lot of that. But then how do you get those assets, right? Those because we have closings that we can show them, but how do you get them? You need to be the best, right? You need to listen. You need to understand, you need to be helpful to your sellers and be honest when you can't help them. So having those listening skills, and then if you know your buyers and know what a deal is, so if you're connected with your buyers, it means you can be a good buyer. Because my buyers are like my partners, because they trust me and I can do deals. I can get the sales what they want. If they need a fast closing, I can get them a fast closing because I know from my buyers that I can do that. So I think you just need to be confident, know your numbers. If you know your numbers, and get a good deal and have the buyers, you'll move it fast. The sellers will appreciate it, and you'll get a good name. Then definitely, yes, get a photo with the closing, get a video of the sellers talking about the experience, put that on your socials, put that on your Facebook, and that'll help that social proof to show that that credibility.
Now I want to touch. Hey, Frontier family. If you're finding value in today's episode, then Nathan and I want to tell you about a Facebook and LinkedIn community we're trying to grow of like-minded entrepreneurs who want to learn more to earn more. We share and discuss relevant topics, strategies, ideas, and overall ways to grow your net worth. So if you're interested in learning more, check down in the description of this video or this podcast to find the links to those pages. All right, let's get back into it. Now I want to touch on like a 3 must-have statement too we talked about previously, right? When you're kind of sending out through your newsletter or your email list to your buyers, people here's what I got going on. There's some 3 must-haves we really hit, and I thought they were great, right? Your subject line, it's got to smack, and it's got to have details, right? The photos needs to show the good and the bad, right? If we're showing too much good, maybe it's not a good enough deal. Or hey, in the back of my mind, he's not showing me something. And then 3, to your point, got to have that accurate ARV, right? Like, is there anything that I'm missing there, or are there any of those that you want to detail on? Because I feel like that alone is a good piece. But you feel like I'm missing anything out of that?
You're really good, by the way, because that's actually true, and definitely the photos, like showing the bad, is important. Again, telling, not selling. You want to show them the what they're fixing, because that's what they're doing. So I think that's about right. I mean, but including the details, not just the ARV, like making sure you're including the square footage, the bed and bath, like just the basic details so they know. If you can give them a few comps, we will generally include comps so you give them the right ARV, but they can see if they see a few comps, then they can see what they're trying to do. And one tip I'll add, not everyone agrees with this one, but I do not include a rehab estimate in my emails, and I'll tell you why. I definitely calculate a rehab, so we have a calculator. I absolutely have a calculation so that I can get my numbers right, but I don't share it because what I've learned is it's always wrong. And let me explain what I mean by that, though. It's wrong because everyone's different, right? So there's a number that's sort of like the right number to use to get the deal sold, but that number, some of my buyers have in-house crews, they've got really cheap stuff, and they're going to be way lower than that because that's just their business model. And I've got other buyers who don't have access to those people. They might be higher end and they're going to be higher. But if I put that number out, it's just wrong for everyone. So instead, they should feel it, right? My ARV's right. I will show them, I will tell them what needs to be fixed. And a good rehabber or rental property owner, they've got their own numbers. They're going to say, okay, so that's the ARV. I see you need to do X, Y, and Z. They're going to apply their own numbers. And if you've done the numbers right, they should go, that's a deal. And they want to buy it. So I just think if you put a rehab cost, it's just, people are going to say it's different, and they're right. Like, you don't want to, I can tell with the ARVs, it's very conclusive. The rehab budget, it is subjective. And so therefore I don't want to like put it out there.
Well, again, and allowing that to apply to more people, right? To your point, even if it's not that someone has the same access to cheaper or better products or whatever, it's maybe this person will want to do a light rehab and the next will want to do like a full on renovation. So you providing a number, to your point, like, where am I shooting for? Right? What's my buyer pool at that point? But I also love too, like, a lot of your point is when you're providing the ARV and you're looking at comps and you're looking at, what it would take to do, you're also kind of looking for, hey, I want to make sure no different that I stay on par with my group, right? Hey, that I'm not going to provide an ARV that's unreasonable. I'm actually going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to do the lower number so that I'm more often correct than not. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. That is the pro tip, right? So, because, ARVs, like, they're in a range, but, like, you can say it might be here or it might be there. And either can be right. But if you're a wholesaler, use a lower one. Because when you send that, this is how you build credibility with the buyers. When they see your ARV and go, oh, wait, I think it's more. I think I can get more. Like, now they feel good about you. Now they think you're competent, right? Whereas if you got that highest one, it's like, I can make an argument. Like, I do have a comp for that. I can make that argument. But if I have to argue with you, I don't want to be arguing with you. I want to put that conservative one. And that's how I do build trusted buyers. And that's why when they do send deals sent out, they look at them, they go, oh, this could be my next deal. And they move fast because they built that credibility. So that's definitely a pro tip. Be conservative, be lower, get those buyers on board.
Well, as you mentioned earlier too, a lot of this is feedback. So how are you nurturing any of that feedback? Are you saying like, hey, here's my deal, but if you have some ideas, follow up? Like, how are you nurturing the feedback so you constantly stay kind of in touch with what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we always are a feedback, but particularly in the early sections, like, I really learned because, like, my numbers were decent, but like sometimes they were wrong when I first started, and I would always listen, understand why. For me, the buyers are never wrong. They do have different opinions, though, right? So also don't take one piece of feedback as gospel, because listen to it. If a buyer is given to you, like, that is a valid point of view, but there can be someone else with a different point of view. So you need to listen to, like, the market, to a bunch, and to figure out what's right or wrong. But we're always listening. We do talk to them and listen to their costs, so we know what cost they're spending on kitchen, bathrooms, averages. So we're always listening to that. I mean, I hired a dispo person at the beginning of last year because the market was changing. It was really, it really was a seller's market a couple of years ago, and now it's more balanced, more of a buyer's market. So the deals didn't fly out the shelf like they used to. So I hired this person who his job is to listen to buyers. He calls them, nurtures them, understands how they think about deals. And so we're always taking that knowledge on. He's an investor himself, so he likes it. I'm an investor myself. I buy properties too. So, I mean, I like it for myself. Like, I speak to a lot of really smart investors, and of course I'm going to listen to them.
And to your point, you had mentioned like, hey, the market sometimes changes. Sometimes it's balanced. Sometimes it's seller heavy. Sometimes it's buyer heavy. To that, do you feel like as the market changes, you need to focus more on one of those sides of the market, whether it be the buyers or sellers? Like, or does that stay pretty consistent? Hey, it's always got to be heavy here, less there. Where do you kind of feel like that?
It definitely changes. So yeah, this is where the two-sided marketplace comes in. It's really hard to balance because, like, how do I, like, you're valuable to the sellers because you have buyers. If you have no buyers, you're not valuable to the seller because you need to move the deal. And the same thing, you're only valuable to the buyers if you have sellers. So it's like really chicken and egg, hard to get it. So you need to build a bit of both. And there's always it always like flows. Like, sometimes one side's more important. You always need to work on both, but sometimes the other one's more important. For example, in 2020, 21, like, the buyers were less important, to be honest with you, because there was just such low inventory, deals just went off the shelf, stupid prices. So, I think a lot of wholesalers took their eye off the ball and didn't really look after their buyers, because the good really good old school buyers who've been buying forever, like they're still buying now, but the newer people aren't. So if you were just like, if you weren't looking after everyone as a wholesaler, you probably got in a lot of trouble in like 23, 24. So I recognized the shift because I would do all the dispo myself. I would send out an email. I enjoyed it. Like I had on my list to outsource it because I do want to build a business. But I didn't do it because it was fun. I enjoyed speaking to sellers and it was easy. I sent an email. I sold the deal, but as it started to get harder, I realized that buyers are becoming more important. So you really needed to, if you want to look after your sellers, you need to keep working on the buyers. And that's when I hired the dispo person and, he just done a really good job. So we've worked very hard on the buyers. We're constantly adding to them. We're like looking in public records to find if there's new buyers we should be adding to our list because buyers go in and out of buying cycles. So we've been working much harder on our buyer side. But of course, let's look up. So you can never ignore one. People did ignore the buyers a little bit in 21, 22. You can never ignore them both. You always look after both of them. But sometimes one's just more important than the other. And right now it is the buyers.
And do you feel like in your market, the buyers tend to be kind of people doing their local operation? Or do you feel like there's some commercial players who are looking to buy into this market? For you, is there any kind of differentiation between that?
Most people in Louisiana are local. It is interesting. So we didn't really get the distortion, for better or for worse, of like we didn't really get the hedge funds come in. New Orleans particularly is where I'm based. It's a very complicated market because there aren't like subdivisions. It's not really easy for like some hedge fund to pull spreadsheets and look at things. And like, it's really hard. You go to the streets, like you go from $1 million properties, you cross the street and it's like a ghetto. Like, so it's very complicated. And it's just not a big enough market, I think, for any of these big players to bother figuring it out. So personally, we don't get a lot of hedge fund activity. So again, that means that we didn't get that massive growth that brought, like there's some good to that, but a lot of those areas that got that then also like fell down. So it can be lumpy. So I think it's beneficial to me that we don't have those players because it's just good, consistent local people, that's really my market.
No, and to that point too, I think where you thrive is being a local player on the wholesale side, right? Like, yeah, having your buyer pool, whether it be commercial or local or not, is what it is. Your buyer pool is what it is, but because you're local, I think you almost have a leg up then, right? If your buyers are local, you have the ability to go handshake if you wanted to, right? Or go to that deal with them and be there in person. Do you feel like that is possibly part of kind of your unique point in all this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe in that. I mean, there are other models and like definitely that people do virtual wholesaling and national, and that's a model. I personally believe that going really deep in an area though is better from my perspective because yes, like you can move deals. You get really smart. Like we know the area as well. So the sellers, like we have good, strong relationships with the buyers, so we can deliver for our seller. Where I think if you're virtual and national, you might make a promise to a seller you can't keep, and then so I personally think that the local's really powerful. I do know particularly because my area is so hard, I see the virtual guys coming to our markets. They never move a deal. The virtual people, like they struggle because they don't have the relationship with the buyers. They really do struggle in our market particularly. But, there's lots of people doing that as well. So I don't want to say that's a bad model. It's just different to me. I definitely think there's a lot of advantages to being that local person. I get a lot of brand stuff. I get a lot of leads from like other wholesalers who want a joint venture. Some of my investors who say, hey, like, can you sell my deal for me? People come to me because I'm known in this area. I think it's much harder to be known nationally. It's easy to really like own an area. And I think I've pretty much been able to achieve that.
Absolutely. And kind of wrapping it full circle almost, is that almost how you were successful in your first venture, right? Where like you focused real good locally in what you could do. And then from there you grew. Is that kind of a good perspective to have, whether you go into wholesaling or if someone just wants to hear this for the two-sided business venture, right? Is if starting local and starting with what you know, the best approach, or do you see that there's still some potential to do maybe like virtual, just if you're in a different market?
I mean, I think in my original business, we open up different markets, but we were national, and there's a real two-sided marketplace is there's only one or two businesses that win. It's actually like a winner take all type business in general because there's a network effect. Because like think about Uber and Lyft. There's like Uber and Lyft. There's not many other players. It's hard for them to get in the game. Airbnb and Vrbo, there's only a couple because the value is the network. The value is that you have all the contractors or all the buyers or, all the sellers. So I think if you're really trying to do like a big two-sided marketplace, you actually have to go really hard and own that market. We were very aggressive in our growth strategy. We prioritize growth over profit in our original business because we had to win. So I am not as ambitious with my wholesaling business. Like I don't think you have to win the market in the same way. I'm not creating. I mean, we IPO'd my last business on the stock exchange. Like I'm not gonna IPO Home Buyer Louisiana, right? It's not the business I'm building. I'm really just trying to own this market and make a good business where I can make profit. I can find some deals for myself as well. So I think it really depends on your objective.
So would you ever be worried then? Like if I wanted to go into a different market, do I need to be considered if there are those two major players already? Or do you feel like wholesaling, regardless of where you're at, there's still some potential to get in and get involved? And to your point, more of a slow growth position. You gain credibility over time. You'll eventually get there.
Yeah, I think wholesaling. I think wholesaling's not the same like winner take all business model. Just because like the buyers, I'm not the only person my buyers need to buy. If they can buy for other wholesalers, they can buy for MLS. I'm not the whole source of their leads. So, there's room for other wholesalers. I do a lot of collaboration with them. So I think it's just different because, you don't necessarily have to build that network, but if you're building like a Facebook or Amazon or a marketplace, you need to be that massive scale. So I think it is different. I think wholesaling, you can find your mark. But you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent in activity and consistent in marketing to make it a sustainable business.
Absolutely. And building with that, do you feel like there's one major piece of advice you would give to someone trying to start today in wholesaling? Like, hey man, get this right from the jump. Got to do this.
I think I was gonna say two things. I mean, I think it is the numbers, like just being educated in general, so you know what a deal is. I think a lot of wholesalers are paralyzed because they don't know what a deal is. It's hard to negotiate if you don't know the price you need. So I think fundamentally you need to know the prices and value. But I mean, that's probably like table stakes. Like what's going to differentiate you, I think, is your ability to empathize and negotiate. So you need to be able to differentiate yourself by negotiating with sellers, listening, being empathetic, understanding their situations. That's what's going to set you apart. Those conversations you have with those sellers. So, I mean, in a book on that, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, is a fantastic book on negotiating. So I think getting that skill right is going to really make you a very good wholesaler.
Absolutely. And just because you're mentioning books, do you feel like there's any other books or podcasts or YouTubers or whatever that you feel like, hey, these are some guys that I would guys or gals that I would really recommend other people follow up on to learn more?
Wholesaling wise, Steve Trang, Real Estate Disruptors, was very good podcast on wholesaling, which I learned a lot from that and scaling a wholesaling business. I think that is Wholesale Inc. So like there's some good wholesaling podcasts to follow along on. Book wise, I mean, my favorite book's Robert Kiyosaki, but that's just more mindset and business than wholesaling or real estate.
Hey, Frontier family. Sad to say that soon after he mentioned this last book, we kind of had some connection issues with Stephen, and it kind of didn't really work out for the recording. But I will say all the additional books and recommendations he has, you can find down in the description below. So definitely go there to check those out. We eventually parted words, and his last kind recommendations he made to us as the next generation was to say, hey, the biggest thing to focus on is remaining consistent and remaining humble, right? With the focus of serving others. At the end of the day, that's all we're here for. And that's the best we can do. The more that you serve, the more will come back your way. So like I said, we at that point parted ways, wish him the best. And as well, we wish you guys the best for anything you learned today. And if you have any comments or things you want us to follow up on, same thing, throw those down in the comment section. We'll follow up with Stephen, and we'll go from there. So thanks again today, guys, for watching and hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one.